Welcome to the Celebrate Brave podcast. I'm Nicole Steinbach, your host and the International Bravery Coach for Women in Tech. I serve women all over the world to earn more money, create more opportunities, and thrive in the tech industry because tech needs all of us. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, brave people. Today, I'm going to dive deeper into interest interviews and why this is a really important technique for you to use throughout your career. Yes, when you're looking for your next role, this is really powerful. It's also powerful to keep you engaged, curious, extending your network, open to new opportunities. Interest interviews are the thing. And yet, far too many people, especially women, aren't leveraging this amazing way to be and stay connected. Okay, so what is an interest interview? An interest interview is when one person is there to learn, that's you, and one person is there to share. Maybe that's also you. Interest interviews are informal conversations based on community, curiosity, and exchange. Interest interviews are not to create a new role for you or for anyone else. Now, does that sometimes happen? Yep, totally. But that is not what these are for. Okay. So, why do you do an interest interview? Well, I already kind of touched on this, but the why is to expose yourself. It's to expose yourself to new ideas, new people, new opportunities. And it's also to practice in a relatively low risk container or in a low risk way how you show up, especially when you are in the process of becoming a new version of yourself. Maybe you're going for a significant promotion, or you're extending your identity to include not just technologist, but also parent or caregiver or artist or manager or public speaker. These are amazing ways to learn. Interest interviews are an amazing opportunity to practice how you're showing up and also learn from people who've already done it. Do you see already why this is so powerful? First objection I always get, and I'm stressing the always there, from clients, from people who ask questions when I'm speaking globally and I talk about the interest interview is, yeah, I mean, that makes sense, but will people really do that? Aren't I just bothering them? Isn't that obtrusive? Okay. First of all, please work on self-belief. You are worthy. You are worthy of other people's time. Secondly, just for a second, put yourself on the other side of the request. Imagine someone comes to you and says, wow, your path is so inspiring and intriguing. I'm so curious and I would love to learn from you because I'm on a similar path, or I'm also going through a transformation. Would you be open to spending a half an hour with me? May I buy you a cup of coffee for those places that are vaccinated and can sit outside? Imagine you're in that seat, especially if that person has been introduced by someone else you know. Don't you feel flattered? Wow, this person sees me and they want to learn from me? That's so cool. I mean, for real, y'all. Who doesn't want to talk about themselves? Who doesn't want to talk about themselves, especially if the other person has already said, wow, I'm really inspired by your shift into technology, by your bilingualism, by the fact that you have an amazing career and you're caregiving. Wow. So, yeah, people will make time for you. It may not be instantaneous. You may have to ask and follow up a couple of times. However, they will make time. I remember the first time I was asked to be interviewed in an interest interview rather than being the person asking for the conversation. And I was on a high. It was fantastic. So, yeah, believe in yourself, know that you're worthy. And yes, people will make time to talk about themselves. So, why do you want to structure an interest interview? Why? Because you're coming with your curiosity. Of course, you can Google lists and lists and lists of questions for informational or interest interviews. There's so many resources out there. And also, this is where you get to show up with your values, your needs, your expectations, and you get to explore if what you imagine is too low for this potential new transformation you're going for, industry, role, relocation. There's so many reasons to have them. Maybe your expectations are too low. Maybe your expectations would stretch the system. That's good to know. And maybe what you've told a Scrum Master does isn't actually what they do in a day-to-day situation. You get to explore these things in your interest interviews. This was one of really powerful ways for me to know that a managing director role at a major consultancy wasn't right for me. In the interviews, it sounded amazing. Oh my gosh. So much influence, so much authority, so much opportunity. And then I did a series of interest interviews with people who either were in the position of managing director or had moved on from that. And I discovered that yes, 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 the influence, the authority, the opportunity for impact was huge. And the majority of time was spent with paperwork. I hate paperwork. It goes against everything that lights me up and makes me magical. And yet, when you're at that level, you got to manage the budgets. You got to make sure your people are taken care of. You got to cross all the T's and dot all the I's for audits and compliance and contracting and all of these things. And that is so important. And a really good managing director slides that in, knows it's part of their work, and then continues to build the business, continues to build the impact, and continues to empower and lift up their people and help them become the best versions of themselves in the roles that they've chosen. That wasn't going to be me though. And I could feel it in my soul. And I knew that from interest interviews. We've covered the why. We've covered the most common objection. And we've covered a little bit of the how. I would be so remiss if I didn't bring up two concrete questions you must have in every single interest interview. Number one, during this conversation, you have shared so much with me, and I'm really grateful. Is there anyone in your network you think I could really have another conversation with, or maybe even should have a conversation with? They'll say yes, they'll say no. And then you can say, oh, would you be willing to introduce me? I'm really appreciative. Thank you. And the absolute last question has to be something along the lines of, this was so helpful. How can I help you? always, always, always end every informational or interest interview with, how can I help you? Now, when I have these conversations, I make sure I have something. But that took practice. It took practice for me to know when someone asks me, how can I help you? No matter what the setting is, I better have an answer because we all have to lift each other up. In reality, most people aren't going to have anything for you. But if they do, follow through. All of the normal things apply, right? Respect their time, show up, say thank you, send through a note, let them know how things are progressing over time. Like, not regular contact, but I adore when I've had an interest interview with somebody and then they come back 4 months, 6 months, 8 months and say, I did it. I got certified as a coach. Or, you know what? I explored getting that other certification for change management and decided it just wasn't right for me. Or, hey, guess what? I just paid off all my debts. We're preparing to move globally. So exciting. So let people know. Just drop them a short line. And the last thing that I want to really stress, and I already touched on this, but I really want to stress it, is that at every interest interview, you come with your curiosity, not with your expectation. To hear a story about how a fellow woman in tech leveraged and grew through interest interviews, informational interviews, take a listen to the episode with Jess Tillis. She shares how this approach really made a difference for her, and it can definitely make a difference for you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Celebrate Brave podcast. If you're ready to build your brave, to live a life you love, and create a career that matters to you, reach out. Together, we can spend time one-on-one to explore how I can help you. And until then, share this episode with people in your life, people who can join our movement to redefine brave, how we identify it, experience it, and celebrate it.